welcome to the next edition of the BriefingsDirect podcast series, now in its 13th year. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator. As solving security concerns has risen to the top of the requirements list for just about everyone, service providers in particular have had to step up their game. Because just as cloud models and outsourcing of more data center functions have become more popular, the security needs have grown even more fast-paced and pressing. So as small to medium-sized businesses have turned to managed service providers to be, in effect, their IT departments, they're also seeking MSPs to serve as their defenses against the latest security risks. Today's BriefingsDirect Security Insights discussion examines how MSPs are building better security postures for their networks and data centers. Here to discuss the role of the latest security technology in making MSPs more like security services providers are our guests. Please join me in welcoming Brian Lucky, Director of Managed Services at All Covered in Ramsey, New Jersey. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad you're here. We're also joined by Jeremy Wigginton, Applications Administrator, also there at All Covered. Welcome, Jeremy.
Welcome.
Hey, Brian, let's start at the top. What are some of the trends that have been driving the need for managed service providers like yourself to provide even more and better security solutions?
Sure. So with MSPs, we're expected, especially from small to medium-sized businesses, to cover the entire gamut when it comes to managing or overseeing a organization's IT function. And with IT functions come those security services. So it's just kind of it's almost an expectation at this point when you're managing the IT department or managing the IT, the services for a client, that they're also expecting that you're overseeing the security part of that function as well.
How has this changed from, say, 3 to 5 years ago? What's changed that makes you more of a security services provider?
Yeah, I think there's multiple factors to that, but I think one of the major driving ones is just all of the heightened security, the news and all the different security events that have occurred, especially over the last 12 months, let alone the last couple of years, with WannaCry and Petya and those other ones that have occurred, that companies are, while they may have known about it, and organizations and owners and executives, they are maybe a little bit more in tune to it. And so sparking interest and also making sure that they're protected, or they feel like they're protected, has definitely increased the need and the ability to ask those questions when it comes to MSPs providing those IT services.
Right. So as we've had more awareness, more concern, more publicity, expectations are also higher. Jeremy, what are some of the technical advances that you feel are most responsible for allowing you to react to these appropriately as an MSP?
Just the ability for the fast analytics, the fast reporting, the fast responses that we can get out of the products and solutions that we use are just, they help tremendously in making sure that our clients are well protected, and that security, any security issues that might pop up are mitigated very, very quickly.
How about Brian, the role of compliance requirements? Are your clients for your MSP services also seeking more security, privacy, control issues around such things as HIPAA or PCI or nowadays GDPR, or is that not such a factor?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We provide IT services to a variety of different industries, especially the ones you mentioned, like the financial industry and insurance and healthcare, and those type of industries that have high regulations and compliance needs. And so we are definitely seeing those more and more as those are older compliance needs that they have, but also companies that maybe might not fall into those typical industries are also looking for the type of items and different compliance needs like PCI, as you mentioned, and GDPR as well.
Now, as Jeremy mentioned, speed is critical here. What's been missing, or what's been a challenge for organizations like yours to react to some of these issues, be it security or compliance, in the past? What has been something that's dragged, in a sense, the feet of response that we can now look to as something that's been improved upon?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of things. One is technology, having the right technology that fits not only our business needs but also our clients' needs. That's a huge impact for us in being able to provide the right services and the right fit. But also integration points, so disparate systems that maybe don't integrate well or work well together. It can be a difficult ability for us to service our clients and appropriately. If we have internal chaos, how can we provide a great service to our clients? And then I think also the progression of services and solutions. We are a technology world for sure, and as technology progresses, it only gets better, faster, cheaper, smarter. And so as the technology progresses and has the ability to provide better solutions, we're able to utilize those solutions and then pass along those type of benefits and those type of solutions to our clients as well.
Jeremy, we've been speaking sort of generally about data center services, IT services, but what about the applications themselves? Is there something specific to applications that you've needed to sort of step up and change or react to more quickly when it comes to security over the past few years?
Most assuredly, there's been a lot of things that get, they get bloated, and when you get things that get bloated and they get slow, then, clients aren't going to want them on their machines regardless of how it would negatively impact their security. So being able to keep a modern product that is lightweight, fast, that the clients don't notice, but they still know that they're being protected, has come a long way compared to, how things used to be, where you were constantly, having to do multiple things just to keep the client happy and compromise things that you may not want to have compromised on.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago where we had to make some tough trade-offs between getting the security but without degrading the performance. And, how far do you think we've come on that? Is that something that's essentially solved nowadays?
For the most part, yeah. And having a comprehensive solution such as what we're using now, we have one product that is doing the job of many, and the clients still don't notice.
All right, before we go on to learn more about what you're using now, let's learn a little bit about All Covered. Tell us, Brian, if you would, about All Covered, your 1,200 employees, and what makes you differentiated in the MSP market. You've been doing this since 1997.
Yeah, we've been around a long time. I think our partnership and acquisition by Konica Minolta many years ago has definitely a huge differentiator for us. Being an office workplace of the future and being able to have multiple different technologies that can serve a organization's needs is definitely critical for us and a differentiating factor. We've been doing it a long time, so computing and networking, different application needs, and those type of services across, as I mentioned earlier, multiple verticals. We're definitely one of the MSP IT major players.
But, of course, Konica Minolta is a global company, so you have sister properties, if you will, around the globe.
That is correct, yes.
All right, let's find out what you did in order to solve some of these issues and take advantage of the latest and greatest in technology. I understand that you're using Bitdefender Cloud Security for MSPs. How did you come to rely on that over the past year or two?
So we set out to find a new endpoint security vendor that would meet the high demands of not only our clients but also our internal needs as well to service those clients appropriately. So we looked at more than a dozen different solutions covering the endpoint security marketplace, and we had over about 6 months or so time evaluations, and we narrowed it down to kind of a final three and began initial testing and discussions around what these three endpoint security vendors would do for us and kind of what the success factors would look like as we test them. So that's kind of our initial way of how we came down to a final three and eventually choosing Bitdefender.
Right. Now, as an MSP, you're concerned not only with passing along great security services, but you have to operate on a margin basis and take into consideration how to cut your total costs over time. Was there anything about the Bitdefender approach that's allowed you to reduce man hours or incidents, or what is it that's perhaps been impactful from an economic standpoint, not just a security posture standpoint?
Yeah, so Bitdefender definitely helped us with that. So our original endpoint security solution involved three different solutions, including a malware malware or anti-malware solution. And so just being able to condense those into one, but still providing the best protection that we could find was important to us, and that is what we found in Bitdefender. So that definitely saved us some costs from the reduction of overall solutions. But we did find other things or recognize other things in choosing Bitdefender, like the reduction of incidents. I think we reduced them by about 70%. So that definitely translated into the reduction of people and manpower and people that need to address issues or maybe infections that come into play. And so that was a big win for us. And having such a wide diversity of clients and also a large endpoint base, those were big wins for us when it came down to choosing Bitdefender.
Now, Jeremy, we are talking about endpoint security, and so that means the movement of software, means the delivery of patches and updates. It means management. So what was it about your choice for Bitdefender along those lines, sort of more the logistical blocking and tackling elements of getting security in place?
With having everything managed, having a kind of a single pane of glass interface for the endpoint security side of the house has saved a ton of time. We're not having to go look in 3 different places. We're not having to deal with, some of our automated things that are going on. We're not having to deal with 2 or 3 different APIs to try and get the same information or to try and populate the same information. We have one consistent product that we can work with, and a product that, as Brian said, has cut down on the number of things that we can come across our desk by at least 70%, because we're seeing the incidents still occur, but they're getting resolved faster and on a more automated basis with Bitdefender than they were in the past with our other products.
All right. Brian, perhaps you could tell us where you are in your journey in terms of this adoption. Are you well into production? Are you in a pilot? Are you fully, proven and into upgrades? Where are we on this journey?
Yeah, we are well into the journey. So we chose Bitdefender in 2016, so mid-2016, and we are, for the most part, deployed in January of 2017. So it's been about a year and a half now with the fully deployed and grown our endpoints by about 30% or so from the time that we originally went live. So our business is growing, Bitdefender is growing with us, and we have continued to have success and feel like we have very good protection for our clients when it comes to endpoint security. And
now that you've had that opportunity to really evaluate and measure this in business terms, what about things like help desk, remote patch management, reporting? Are these things that have maybe changed your culture or your business in addition to the technology of the solutions for security?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been able to reduce our incidents that we've mentioned, and that's obviously a reflection on the service desk and help desk on taking calls on those type of issues. For patching, we have a pretty low patch remediation rate, which is great. I'm sure Bitdefender has reflection on that. And for reporting, it's big for us. Not only do we have more in-depth and detailed reporting for our clients, but we also have the ability to give access for our clients to manage their own endpoints as well as report on their own endpoints.
So you're able to provide sort of a hybrid approach, let them customize, slice it and dice it the way they want for those larger enterprise clients. But tell us a bit more about how what Bitdefender has brought to the table has helped you be more of a total solution provider to your small to medium-sized business clients.
Yeah, so endpoint security is kind of a commodity business. So it's one of those things you just have to do. It's kind of the standard. And so not having to worry about some of our standard offerings like endpoint security, we just know it works. We know how it works. We're very comfortable in how it works. And we know it in and out. It makes life easier for us to focus on the other things, the non-commodity business or the more advanced security items like SIM and manage UTM and those type of services for us.
Yeah, let's hear a bit more about that. What now can you do with a sort of value-added set of services that you weren't able to do before?
Yeah, it just allows us to focus, have less focus on the standards and the commodity base of the business and focus more on the advanced, maybe MSSP type of services. We acquired a company, VioPoint, just a little bit ago that focuses solely on security offerings. So being able to focus on those, not having to worry about those standard smaller pieces of security, and focus on more of the advanced security for those businesses is definitely key for us.
Hey, Jeremy, looking at this through that applications lens once again, what do you see as the new level of value added that you can bring along, the lines of what Brian said, is some commodity level things you have to think about, but what can you now spend your time sort of bolstering and bringing in as a value added service?
Some of the newer features that they're bringing in that we've been able to, kind of look at and evaluate some, such as their full disk encryption has been a nice little product. I've done some testing with it. They let me in on their beta of it, which was really, which is really nice, really easy to use. There's a lot less on the remediation of all these potential security incidents. We've seen a far greater drop in things like ransomware and items along those lines. So I'm able to focus more on, making sure that our clients are well protected and making sure that the application is working as intended, as opposed to having to put out a fire because the old solution let something in that it shouldn't have.
Okay. It's great to talk about this in the abstract, but it's very powerful, too, and we can get a bit more concrete in terms of examples. Now, I know in your business it's tough to name your clients, and we don't expect that, but do you have any use cases for your managed service provider endpoint security and management capabilities that you can point to and say, yeah, this really helped us lock down this sector or this use case or this type of client, or maybe even a particular client? So let's go to some examples. Brian, anything come to mind?
Yeah, the one comes to mind and always sticks with me is we had a legal client up in the central part of the U.S., and when we rolled out Bitdefender to replace the security solutions or the endpoint security solutions they had, their business stopped. And the reason their business stopped is there was some malware detected, and we couldn't really find out where the malware is coming from. And after some additional research, we found that their main application to manage their clients and to manage billing, basically to run their business, the executable file that they would take and copy that and actually install that application on every desktop had malware in it. And so the previous solutions didn't catch that. And so they were basically, every time they were deploying this application to new users, or if they had to redeploy it, they were putting malware on every machine every time. And so we weren't able to detect it until we actually had Bitdefender deployed. And once Bitdefender deployed it, it stopped the business, which is not good. But the better part was that we were able to detect malware that was being spread across the different machines. So that's one that I always remember because it was a big deal, obviously stopping businesses. But the most important part there was we were able to detect malware and protect that company better than they've been protected before. So that's one that always sticks with me.
Right. The worst kind of problem is not knowing what you don't know.
Exactly. Another example we have was a pretty large client that has remote offices for, I believe, dental services across the U.S. And each office has pretty spotty internet access. And so being able to deploy Bitdefender was challenging until we had the ability to use the relay. And the relay allowed us to deploy it once and to the company, and then deploy it to most of the devices with one deployment instead of having to deploy one agent at a time. And so that was a big benefit where we didn't have that in the past. And so being able to deploy it once and then have that relay, have the other machines utilize that relay for deployment, made deployment a lot easier, but also a lot faster due to the low bandwidth that was available in those several locations.
We've had another similar issue of a company where they would not allow their servers to have internet access whatsoever. So we were actually able to set up a desktop as the relay and get the servers connected to the relay on the desktop to be able to make sure that their security software is up to date and checking in and doing what it's supposed to be doing, as opposed to just sitting there and then alerting whenever its definitions come out of date because it doesn't have internet access.
So let's look to the future a little bit about what comes next. We've heard a lot about encryption, as you mentioned, Jeremy, and there's also lots of research and development being done into things like machine learning to help reduce the time to remediation and also allow the technology to become more prescriptive, to get out there and head things off before they become problems. So, Brian, what are you looking for next when it comes to what folks like Bitdefender are going to bring to the table to help you do your job?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've already started testing some of the newer functionality that is actually being released to the MSP Cloud Security this month. And there's some other things that we're looking into that they're doing, which includes advanced security and some machine learning and some new functionality that they're releasing. So that's definitely our next steps when it comes to kind of the next gen or the progression of the Bitdefender agent and console. And in addition to that, outside of Bitdefender, we're also expanding the services from our new security acquisition and kind of consolidating those and providing a best-in-class security offering to our clients. So those are, I would say, the top two, at least short-term avenues that we're deep into already.
Jeremy, same thing. What entices you about what's coming down the pike when it comes to helping you do your job better?
I am really looking forward to the same sort of things, and Bitdefender's cloud allows us a lot more flexibility when it comes to those things, because we're not having to allocate our own internal resources to try and do the analytics side of the house. So their sandbox analyzer and things that are coming soon really do interest me a lot, and I'm hoping that will further chop that number of security incidents that come across our desk even more.
Super. Last question. For those organizations, be they security providers or end-user organizations themselves, what would you suggest in hindsight, now that you've made a big transition from multiple security providers to more of a consolidated, comprehensive approach? What have you learned that you could share with others who are maybe not quite as far along in the journey as you? Let's start with you, Brian.
Yeah, I think number one is testing. Make sure that we did a pretty good job of testing, took a three-prong approach of internal, external, and then kind of semi-internal, our help desk folks. So making sure that you have a comprehensive test plan to test out how many bad guys are being protected, what kind of malware is being blocked, and the functionality. I think that's a big one. Test, and test some more. I think also choosing the right partner or the right vendor, if you will, is key. I believe in having partners instead of just vendors. Vendors are just supply products, but partners work together to be successful. It's kind of like dating. Date the right partner until you find the right one. And Bitdefender has definitely been a great partner for us. So I think with those two pieces, the rest, having your requirements, setting up for success, setting what success looks like is all important. But the testing and making sure you find the right partner were key for us, as we kind of knew what we wanted. We needed the rest of to fall in place.
Jeremy, from your perspective, what advice could you give others who are just starting out?
Make sure that you're as thorough as possible in your testing and get it done, sooner rather than later. The longer you wait, the more advanced threats are going to be out there, and the less likelihood that you're going to have to catch them on an older solution. So, do your homework, but you got to be on the ball with it.
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. Very good. You've been listening to a sponsored Briefings Direct discussion on how small to medium-sized businesses have increasingly turned to managed service providers, but finding them to be among their greatest defenses against the latest security risks. And we've learned how new and increasingly intelligent security technology from such vendors as Bitdefender are making MSPs more like security services providers for their clients. So please join me now in thanking our guests. We've been here with Brian Lucky. He's Director of Managed Services at All Covered in Ramsey, New Jersey. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Also, we've been here with Jeremy Wigginton. He's Applications Administrator there at All Covered. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing series of Briefings Direct discussions. A big thank you also to our sponsor, Bitdefender, for supporting these presentations, and a thank you as well to our audience for joining. Please pass this on to your IT community, and do come back next time.